Hey guys, this is Savannah from earthandwater.co. We are working on the Celestine Prophecy Insights, and this is insight number 8, which is our next to last one. So we just have this one and then one more to go. That covers all of the insights in the first book. There are like 2 or 3 other books after that, but we're not going to get into those just yet. These right here are plenty enough to explore and think about and talk about and whatnot, and I have other topics that I'm interested in talking about. So anyway, this insight speaks on children and their needs, as well as energy addictions and those which are still related to the family dynamic, because it speaks about relationships. But again, I always recommend to start at the beginning and then meet us back here. And also there are spoilers, so if you don't like that sorts of thing and you're interested in go reading the book yourself, go for it. But if you're here, you've probably already read the book, honestly, or are just looking for some cliff notes, which is cool, and I am super happy to help you with that. Anyway, so the 8th insight, we're talking about children to begin with, and in the book, I really liked this one, especially because I'm a mom myself, and I have a lot of opinions about parenting and how we have just historically been very wrong about how we went about it. But at the same time, we couldn't really help it up until now. You know, birth control wasn't really a thing until in recent times. And before that, we were just kind of subjected to having 15 children and making the best of it, which is not an ideal solution or situation for parents or children either. We really forget how new we are in society and civilization and whatnot, especially in certain areas of the world, because only 100 years ago, everything was very different. That's when the Industrial Revolution hit and technology started taking off, and up until that point, it was very sticks, rocks, and dirt, you know what I mean? Think if someone took you and set you loose in a completely foresty nature type of situation. Would you be able to find your water, your food, your shelter? Would you be able to meet all of your needs in a manner so pristine that you were able to take care of your entire 15-kid family the way they were supposed to be taken care of? Times were hard. Times were very hard, and especially on parents and children, which is, I mean, like, essentially all of us. But anyway, I digress. Moving forward, I just wanted to, really put in there that, yeah, we've not always made the best choices when it comes to parenting, but we also kind of had our hands tied until recently. And then once recent years started taking over and we did have more options for ourselves and our families, we had to unlearn all of the things that needed to be unlearned in order to replace them with more positive behaviors. And this is where we are now, learning these new behaviors and these new better ways of doing things and trying to put them into practice, because, you know, knowing what we're supposed to do and actually implementing it out into the field are 2 completely very different things. So, moving forward, the Celestine Prophecy gives us a few insights on how to parent properly. The first being, well, I don't actually know what order the book presents them in. I'm going to present them to you in this order. We should only have as many children as we have adults to care for those children. And that is some highly controversial stuff. I know. Okay? I know. Don't get mad at me. I'm just the messenger from here to you, but I also agree with this because, and they state in the book, because the reason for this being is that, you know, we've been talking about energy needs and how everybody has these energetic needs, and how historically we were unaware really of that we needed these needs, but we were still meeting them through taking the energy from other people. You know, all we knew was that these certain things, these certain people, yada yada, would have us walking away feeling good or bad. And we just kind of took that and ran with it, because even though Most of all of this is innate and natural and intuitive and instinctual. It still has to be pointed out to us as being a thing before we can connect all of the dots to it being instinctual and automatic. Children don't have the ability to gain their own energy from other things than their parents when they first start out. For the first several years of children's lives, they are completely helpless and completely dependent 100% on the adults in their life. And for this exchange to be a positive one for both child and parent in question, then the parent cannot be overwhelmed with the amount of children that they have to give energy to. Because even though energy is an unlimited resource, most of us don't know how to tap into it yet. And so we can't even gain enough energy for just ourselves, much less enough energy to fully supply ourselves and all of the children in our lives the way they need to be tended to and supplied for. Another thing that it specifies on is that we need to stop treating children like children, and my goodness gosh, have I been preaching this my entire life. I've always felt that if we treat children as children, then they become just grown adult childs. But that's another subject probably. Their point is, when someone walks up to you, if you're ever around children, if you have custody of children or are responsible for children, and you take them places and they meet adults will be like, "Oh, how sweet, how old are they, what is their name?" talking to the adult. And we really should not be doing that, and I couldn't agree more with the fact that we should not be doing that. Honestly, it's kind of rude. If someone walked up to you and your friend, and they looked at your friend and went, "Who is that? What is their name? What are they doing here?" with you right there in front of them, you would be like, "Hi, I'm such and such, I'm here, you can talk to me, And, but it's weird that we do this to children as if they cannot respond. And I mean, sure, babies can't, you have to ask the adult present who they are, what their name is, and how old they are, and yada yada, whatever you want to know, because they can't respond. But as soon as children become interactive, which happens at 1 or 2, y'all, okay? And I mean, 2's really pushing it. They become interactive around 1. So once they start saying words, you can start interacting with them specifically, and it's going to hugely help their cognitive abilities and their social abilities and their ability to develop and communicate and become a functioning adult eventually, Start young, start as soon as you can. Anyone who works with children at all will tell you that there is a clear divide between the children who have been interacted with and the children who have just kind of been allowed to exist in the area of, the ones that are interacted with specifically, talked to directly, are way better at communicating, and not only their thoughts but their emotions, less tantrums, less needy behaviors. You have those kids that you can tell when they aren't receiving the energy and attention that they need, because if they find an adult that's willing to give them attention, man, they will drain that adult dry. In the book, we meet a little girl who, I don't remember how old she was in the book. She was 5 or 6 or something so old enough to formulate thoughts and interactions and social structures and whatnot. And people in the book kept emphasizing how blown away they were by the capabilities of this little girl. And her mother was like, "It's just because I have treated her like a person her whole life." And they were like, "Whoa, what a concept, treating her like a person." But yeah, kind of seems obvious when you lay it out like this, but I mean, look around. You can see from here to here to all over the place. I'm all the time seeing people talk about how children should not be a part of adult conversations, and children should not be allowed to sit in on this or that. And I'm like, y'all, how else are they going to learn? Okay, they need to learn about the world, about, I mean, sure, there are certain things that are age appropriate, absolutely. But for the most part, we need to include our children in all of the processes that are necessary for all of life, because when we can involve them as small people in a safe and controlled environment where you're there step by step to help them through and teach them and make it normal processes and whatnot, they're going to be wonderfully, beautifully functioning adults, okay? Because they're not going to be thrown out into the world and bombarded with all of these things that they should have been taught but aren't. And that goes from things as simple as socializing. You know, how many of us are terrible socializers, huh? We want to blame technology for it, but it's not all technology's fault, okay? It's also how we were interacted with as children, you know, told to hush, told to be seen but not heard. Go play by yourself. Go play over there. Go play with them. Go shoo, leave me alone, essentially, right? So aside from socialization, though, we have to know how to grocery shop. We have to know how to feed ourselves properly. A lot of us weren't taught that, were we? Well, when you interact, when you bring the child in to be a part of cooking the meals, preparing the meals, figuring out how to eat and whatnot, instead of just being like, shoo, let me cook so that we can move on, they learn, and then they don't have to become adults who struggle with nutrition and a balanced diet because it was just innately taught to them, right? And all of this, and I know it's a lot of work. Raising a small person into a big person is a lot of work, and you don't want to overwhelm yourself with too much of that, right? And that's why we go back to it's easier to do when you have less of them. So ideally, one adult per kid is how we meet these requirements. Don't yell at me about that, because I totally know. And if you have 8 kids, that's totally cool. Okay, I'm not here to bash you at all. I'm just saying, I bet that's hard, and you are a super person. So the other half of the 8th insight deals with energy addictions, and I've always felt that this part of the insight was a little misplaced. Even though it needs to be its own insight, I feel like we've kind of already covered it in the prior episodes talking about energy exchanges, but I've definitely already covered it in the yin and yang episode that came out, published directly right before this whole series. So if you haven't listened to the yin and yang episode, it's probably my favorite thus far. But it's pretty much talking about, more in depth anyway, this, which we're going to touch on because we're already pushing on time, and you know I don't like to sit here and talk forever. I don't like episodes that are too long. But anyway, so energy addictions, we all have both yin and yang energy within us, right? We're a whole circle. We have feminine and masculine aspects, energies within us all. We are predominantly one or the other, but we are seeking out always our other half to bring wholeness and balance to ourselves. Yeah? See, the problem is that we find these energies within other people, and then we try to get them to complete our circuit to make us a whole, right? Well, we already have the capabilities of being a whole person by ourselves. We don't need them to complete us. And this is where a lot of our problems reside, because in relationships, because we want this other person to complete us, and for a little while it feels like they do, right? When we find that person who creates our wholeness or whatever, then, it feels really good, but we're fighting over the same energy, okay? We're two whole circles that are fighting over the completion of each other. Does that make sense? Like, we need to be two whole circles in and of ourselves without each other before we come in and interact with each other. So, or else we start fighting over the exact same energy. And this is either the masculine or the feminine or whatever. It becomes kind of a energetic tug of war where, and it's not sustainable. You have to figure out how to complete your own circle, your own circuit, your own wholeness of both balanced between feminine and masculine energy, yin and yang, positive and negative. You need to find your own balance of energy before we can start interacting with others in a healthy, positive manner of partnership. Or else it's just gonna become a power struggle, and that's exactly what we don't want. Touching also on the power struggles is the last part of the 8th insight. And like I said earlier, I've always felt like this insight was a little too much, like a little all over the place. It kind of needed, I don't know, it works, I guess, for the book. But anyway, it touches back on control dramas, and in this insight, it tells us how to interact with people in their control drama, which is usually pointing it out. And I covered this in the control drama point insight big podcast episode, because that's where it should have been in the first place when you're laying all of this out. But anyway, just for thoroughness, I will touch on the fact again that if you're interacting with people who are trying to steal your energy in the form of control dramas, being aware is always the first step and most important step. So when you interact with people out into the real world and they start acting in ways that steal your energy, pause for one, take a step back and look at the situation from a outsider's point of view, and that just means like don't get emotionally charged, emotionally reactive. Identify which control drama they're operating under. If it's a bully, most of the time you can just point it out and be like, yo, why are you being mean? And most of the time they'll be like, oh, my bad, I did not intend to be. And then if it's a poor me, you can, I think that's a more delicate situation, honestly. But interrogators, you can pretty well address just the same way as a bully. And the aloofs, you can totally just point out and be like, hey, you do realize that I'm trying to take an interest in you, and if you don't want me to, I'm happy to just move along, but I don't want you to think that I'm being a jerk by being like, forget you then, and then dipping out, because it's just an energy protection type of thing, So just all of that takes some practice and some awareness and some gentleness along the way, and always meet people with love and compassion, and try your best, and good luck out there, y'all. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Tune in for the next episode, which is the last insight, and then we'll move on to a lot of other fun, cool topics. So I want to let you sit here for a few minutes with some meditation music. Oh, come join us in the Facebook group. Yeah, I need to mention that. But I'm going to let you sit here, relax your face and shoulders, take some deep breaths, and just give yourself a few minutes to just exist and breathe and relax, because we hustle too hard, too much, too often in our society and culture, and we do not give ourselves enough time to rest, relax, restore. It's a rest and digest response, We have to have that relaxation, that space created in order for our body to function properly. Stress causes a lot of our sicknesses. Anyway, love you guys. Namaste. See you later.